G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talks Off Ukraine War Update for the 21st of October 2025. I'm your host, the author, David Applegate, author of the books The Boyhood of Cade, Power Games, Into the Housebound, and The Erotic Tales from the Empire. Part 1 is out now, Part 2 is coming soon. Now I'd like to thank all the supporters who support this channel and invite you to support the channel through the links in my link tree. More details on how you can support the channel at the end of the show. Now, Poland has allegedly detained Russian saboteurs amongst fears of Russian hybrid warfare. Moscow is accused of running an espionage camp operations across Europe that involve sabotage that is targeting nations supporting Ukraine. Yes, there is most likely some truth to this. There are likely sabotage and espionage campaigns targeting goods and materials going to Ukraine. But I doubt there are military actions occurring on foreign soil. I still think they would, because there's no proof. There's no parade of saboteurs and weapons or anything like that. No, I think this is just I think they're throwing in sabotage for the sake of beating their chest, trying to escalate war, as Russia warned us they would. I'm not saying that Russia didn't spy. I'm saying they're beating the war drums, folks. They're trying to manufacture consent for a war. Here we go. Ukrainians. I don't think so. But allegedly, a Russian drone attack. Could also be hailstorm damage. Also, that car could have been sprayed with dirt and hail from a nearby explosion. They're just pulling it, showing you some ethnically diverse children, so you get used to the fact that you won't see white faces in Ukraine anymore, and, of course, showing you children so that you will tug at your heartstrings, because women are so easily manipulated. Now, Russian forces have launched several attacks across the entire front. Ukrainian assault forces said, "We killed lots of Ukrainians. We killed lots of Russians." Wait, did they kill? They allegedly took out a Russian assault force. Well, without providing details or when the attack or where the attack, some Russian military bloggers cast doubt on this. But there was a clash in Pokrovsk. So, one little elite force of British operatives probably killed some Russians. After the Russian assault force wiped out their Ukrainian trainees, the SAS, the air assault forces from Britain, took it in Ukrainian uniforms, of course, took out the Russians, and then disappeared into the night because we're not involved in the war, remember? There is many likely other stories, but air assault forces, Ukraine don't have air assault forces, okay? Foreign countries, some of which include Britain, very, very much so have air assault forces. And although Ukrainian technically does have air assault forces, i.e. foreign mercenaries and trainees, but please. We could go back to the days when Ukraine was the Russian satellite and its special operatives were Russians. most of the Ukrainian army was actually in other countries. This is all part of the you don't occupy your own country mentality of empires. You soon find out why. I mean, it's quite simple. If your country rebels, that country's army is less likely to fight for you, so you send it to other countries to occupy. Which is why there's so much bad blood between Eastern Europe and Ukraine. Because Ukraine was the willing boot. They were on their... It wasn't just Russians. Ukrainians were the willing boot of Stalin. Okay? You've got to remember the Russian Revolution actually started in Ukraine, and Ukrainians put the boot on to Russians. They were clever, though, and only killed officers at the time. It was later under Stalin purges that they expand. But remember, the Bolsheviks were not Russians. Diplomacy. There's possibilities. Now, there's a report about Marco Rubio. Now, allegedly, there was a discussion that was called... Though it was a phone call, but there has been some fake news in CNN and others that there's a cancelled meeting. No, we'll get to that later though. First, to the map. Russia attacked Ukraine. Ukraine attacked Russia. We can look at the map. Wait a minute. Is this new? Or is this old? Old. Yeah. That's not a big explosion. That is a gas pipe rupture. Finally, at least the image loads. Yes, yesterday. Now, as far as we know, only a few drones made it to the skies over Rostov. And apparently, according to the Ukrainians, by the way, this is a Ukrainian source, folks, are saying that the Russians in Batavisk took out the Ukrainian drones. Wow. You think the propaganda site would actually give you propaganda? Again, the number of drones seems to hover around half. And again, I put it to you that this is likely because the Russians sent mostly decoys, and most of the attack drones made it to target. I say most because we don't know how many were involved. We only have an estimate and an estimate. And we know they haven't claimed to shot down any missiles, so... Now... Oh, that's a day ago. Right. See, this is the incident I'm talking about, that allegedly there was a fight this is the center of Pokrovsk. In this blackened area, apparently there was a fight. Some Ukrainians, probably military command, were wiped out. But as the Russians were in the building, they were surrounded, and allegedly another firefight broke out and burnt the building down in the process, killing all inside. And the 7th Corps took credit. I don't think so. I think the Special Air Service got involved after losing their trainees, or their protectees, I should say, along with their trainees. All right, so we have fighting in the north. We have fighting in a town. Don't think the buffer zone expanded in Sumy. We have attacks on Kharkiv, successful attacks on Kharkiv. We have a little bit of a few more blocks taken in Vostok. Well, it's not much, is it? Compared to other areas. Particularly, how long have they been there? A few years? Over a year now. Russians have made some progress in Kupiansk, not much, but still progress. The bridge is still allegedly intact. The Ukrainian saboteurs who tried to destroy the bridge, no more. So we go along the front. There's multiple attacks. Only a bit of securing of positions here. Nothing really to talk about. Fighting Ukrainians here and here and here. A lot of these are artillery exchanges. They are going for the southern flank of Seversk by the looks of it. Well, they have fighting in other areas. A little bit of this territory has been lost by the Ukrainians. Not much. Nothing really going on. A little bit of a push towards Konsk. Not much else. Though, could be the Russians moved a little bit north here, or just the way the map's drawn. I would say I'd say it's a bit of both. But really, until they squeeze the last of the Ukrainians out of here, I think it's going to show us these fields as white. A little bit of movement here in the north. Successful attacks up on the second Zelensky line. Some fighting going on here. This is where the attack occurred yesterday. It's marked as yesterday, but it wasn't on the map yesterday, I don't think. Now, again, it's hard to know, but there's backwards and forwards going on in Ruddy. Little bit of movement and activity on the northern front here. The Ukrainians on the losing end of that argument. And lots of arguments, and again, the Ukrainians on the losing end here, with the Russian forces making several advances and expanding expanding the territory in so they are making success, and as I thought, they are cutting across there to stop the Ukrainian supply lines through this. Perhaps even taking on the Ukrainian line here on multiple fronts, while they secure the road to Zaporozhye, create a huge cauldron. Probably, originally I thought it was going to be a reverse C, but it looks like it's going to be a U with the squeeze on the Ukrainians up to here. So they're going to push, and then annihilate. How far will they go? Will they cross the line? Will they take more territory than the initial? See what happens in this area. I think will indicate over the coming days whether Russia intends to push past the territory it claims. And how far, how big, and how far they will go. Because that will be a determination for Trump's response over the coming weeks. Now, Russian diplomats said there was no Lavrov-Rubio meeting, as though CNN, he's calling out CNN, not America, not Marco Rubio, not ABC, specifically CNN. There was claims made about a meeting between Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and U.S. State Secretary of State Marco Rubio, was reported on CNN. That did not happen. They had a phone call. But CNN said, citing White House sources, i.e., trust me, bro, that a meeting was going to take place and was expected to take place in the coming days, and it's now being put on hold. And this guy come out straight away and said, that's not what happened. That never happened. you are fake news. And CNN is being red-faced because everybody else is reporting that there was a phone call. CNN got played, or they decided to shit the bed, because we know ABC's on the outs with the Trump administration after Stephanopoulos disrespecting VP Vance. So, don't expect Tomahawks anytime soon there, Zell. My main priority is peace, Mr. Zelensky, said President Trump. You got to remember, Vladimir Zelensky made another appeal after he was turned down after the initial meeting. He made a further appeal yesterday for Tomahawk missiles, and Trump gave him the highway to the danger zone response. And if you don't know what the meme is, yeah, look it up. However, given the latest news and doom and gloom reports, after several successful attacks on Ukraine, US, I believe it was the RAND Corporation, put out an assessment which apparently the NSA and others must agree with, because we now have President Trump announcing Ukraine at its current state cannot and won't win the war with Russia. Speaking of reporters, they could still win it. I don't think they will, but they could. Anything could happen. War's a very strange thing. Lots of bad things happen, and a lot of good things happen. Trump claimed around 5,000 and 7,000 on both sides die each week. I would put it to you that around 7,000 Ukrainians die, and around 5,000 Russians are severely wounded or die, and that around, and again, Ukraine has a higher fatality rate than Russia, and we've seen that in action. We've had private corporations come out and confirm body counts, that around 3,000 Russians were buried at Bakhmut, not 15,000. And since then, lots of speculators have looked at the battle for Ukraine, some of them past battles, more carefully, and noted that not always are the words eliminated Jews. And a lot of them don't report their casualties. So you have removed, right? And remember, they're going off how many Russians died based on the number of Ukrainians dead. But in recent body swaps, the number of dead Russians is far less than the number of dead Ukrainians. The number of living Russians is far more than the dead or living Ukrainians that they transfer. Meaning that even if you're wounded and Ukrainian, you're most likely to live if you're captured by a Russian than you are if you're sent back. Now, last body swap was over a month ago. I don't know why, but there hasn't been any reported since. But the Red Cross has said they're continuing. So it might be that they're just not reporting. But they are continuing to collect bodies on both sides. So I'm not saying Russia's abandoned its people or Ukraine's abandoned its people. There's lots of reasons why. Russian infiltrators, Ukrainian scouts, they're not going to report missing. Deserters, they're not going to report missing. People shot by border guards may not be collected straight away. But a lot of bodies are collected and handed over to Red Cross every day. Often because there's no identification, right? Somebody hit by artillery, you're not going to be looking for dog tags, are you? But Zelensky's aide has made a rare statement that would definitely would have to be cleared by the office of Zelensky. Otherwise, the SBU would have strung him up by now. So we could take this as an officially approved announcement, not an official announcement, just approved to be leaked. That Zelensky is testing the waters to see, this is my opinion now, I believe that Zelensky is testing the waters to see exactly what's the support. This comes after reports of Kiev warning of a difficult winter, and they have a inadequate gas and electricity supply. A lot of Ukrainians were reliant on gas and electricity, and anybody knows anything about electric room heaters, particularly space heaters, they just can't warm up quick enough in sub-zero temperatures. They're good if you can get them hot enough during the day, but if you don't have consistent power, and again with space heaters, as soon as they turn off, they cool down very rapidly in cold weather. Okay, that's why most people prefer gas. Electric heaters are just not efficient for the type of winters you get. Now, allegedly there are some efficient electric heaters, but you think Ukraine is going to have a couple of 100,000 high-end heaters? Well, we hope that they do. And this is one of those times where I say, all those people out there who are supporting Ukraine, stop buying them drones, start buying them heaters. Start getting gas bottles. Stop thinking about winning the war and start thinking about stopping Ukrainian civilians from dying, because the highest casualties from last year were Ukrainian civilians who died due to the bitter cold. Now, Ukraine has hundreds who die every year from the bitter cold. They just don't report it. But if you truly support Ukraine, don't buy drones, buy heating. Buy heating blankets, buy thermal underwear, okay? Don't support, and if you support Russia, same thing. Don't buy drones. Don't send Red Cross packages. Send thermals. I think most people in the West are not supporting Russia, but there are countries out there who are listening, who are on Russia's side, and have falsely assumed the best way to deal with this is to send drones to, this happens on both sides. And I'm saying that's a waste of money right now. With this winter expected to be the coldest so far for this war, not for the year or mid-decade, but so in this war, it's expected to be colder than last year. And given last year thousands died, expect far more this year unless we start now. I would suggest mostly thermal underwear, okay? Heaters, probably too late for heaters. Probably not enough power for heaters. And remember, there's also gridlock. A lot of roads are closed. Major roads are only kept open by regular bulldozing. This is a fact. Cold meals, absolutely. Red Cross is probably right now on a can drive. And you can give to the Red Cross cans. Ukraine military are suffering widespread desertions. A lot of this, I would put to you, is cold. Okay, a lot of them aren't actually fleeing Ukraine. They're just going to the warmer parts of Ukraine, hoping that there's enough of there's not much fighting in the north, so people probably don't miss. And don't forget, most of these desertions, this is mostly draft evasion, not... and those figures have been confirmed with independent agencies. But now, EU has a shortful. They are expecting artillery rounds from the US. According to some, this number is a high-end estimate. The low-end estimate is around 100,000. But it is short of its 2 million per year target. And they were short last year and the year before. But they are allegedly closing the gap. But in a speech, I think she used the high-end estimate in her speech to try and panic the people. Because if I was Russia and wanted propaganda out there, I would use the low end. But people might look up her speech. And not because we would fact-check Russia. Russia doesn't care about us fact-checking them. They only care about their opposition groups fact-checking. Putin has to worry about opposition groups, unlike previous presidents. You may think, oh no, Putin's authoritarian. Putin has limits, okay? Remember, Putin's opposition is backed by China. Okay, Putin's only in the good books with Xi Jinping because he hasn't removed Xi Jinping's communist friends from the elections in Russia. This is why China and Russia have a complex relationship. Russia has a communist party. It is backed by China. It is funded by China. Russia needs China so it can't eliminate the opposition, which gives the opposition almost free rein to run riot and criticize the war, even when there's laws against it. All the Russian president can do is put them away for a few days, I think up to 15 days, and then let them out again. They don't care. It's a badge of honor to commies to get arrested. Unless it's by their own people, and then they shit their pants because they know what they would do to their opposition if they were in power and arrested them for criticising the election or the lack thereof. Just ask Xi Jinping's missing generals. Oh wait, you can't ask them unless you got a Ouija board. Now, why would China be purging more generals than Russia, and Russia's only purged 2 generals for corruption, one of whom was a supply general, the other was a general who allegedly abandoned his troops by sending them into a forward position without supplies, and apparently passing intel to Ukraine. Deliberate sabotage got him a field promotion to corps. But some people said, no, it's Putin taking out his opposition. No. This was a long-time general, probably in the pocket of the CIA, whatever. It's not new. It's happened before. Remember, America bought off Saddam's generals. That's why Saddam folded like a house of cards and had so much trouble. But we have positive news on the diplomatic front. And again, this is what we all want, I believe. And you may, even if you think war is a good idea, it's not. Even if you don't live through the war, you're going to suffer major consequences. If US and Russia went to war, sure, it would be a shorter war than, say, Europe and Russia going to war. But remember, Russia won't suffer the humiliation and defeat alone. You'll lose cities, you'll lose ports, Russia will lose more, but Russia won't burn alone. It will be horrific. It'll be a horrific humiliation for everybody. And yes, it would result in Putin's death, no doubt about it. Probably the death of a few European leaders along the way. And it will permanently scar the world and leave the world divided for thousands of years, right? And who knows what China would do? What would happen to South Korea? You know? No, the leak. Let's say we go by the Taiwan leak. Let's say Russia and US or Russia and Europe go to war. North Korea attacks South Korea. China attacks Japan and Taiwan. At the same time, it's expected that China will invade either Cambodia and or Vietnam and or Mongolia. Okay, there's multiple battle scenarios that Xi Jinping put together. Now, looking at the battle scenario, South Korea, 1 million people straight away, boom, vaporized. North Korean artillery will wipe out many, up to 1 million. South Korea would immediately enact its dead man. It will just unleash all forces against North Korea, all missiles, all forces. Once they hear the artillery, they know there's no time to evacuate cities, no time to relocate. They just have to open up, right? They'll lose artillery, they'll lose tanks, they'll lose a lot. So they just open up. They know there's no point in retreating. There's nowhere to retreat to. You're in range. So they just open up everything. So 1 million in the south, 10 to 12 million in the north, including destroying most of the cities south. They'll just annihilate. They'll just launch the heaviest weapons they have and just decimate North Korea, hoping that they prevent a nuclear launch. Hoping that North Korea won't launch a nuclear weapon. And hopefully they can destroy Pyongyang and some of their key cities before they do get to launch nuclear weapons. So the South has, basically, as soon as there's an artillery strike, all their aircraft go into the air and launch everything they have. There's no command. There's nothing you could do. You just have to hope that you missed. So Taiwan is the same thing. Taiwan will unleash everything they have. They'll hit the Chinese ports and they'll hit the Three Gorges Dam, and they'll probably hit a few other power targets along the way. And as well as that, they'll probably cripple a few power stations, basically destroy quite a lot of tonnage in ports. Along with the Japanese Navy, will destroy a lot of Chinese ships. 4 to 5. They hopefully have enough missiles, but they believe, between them to destroy at least 500 ships. So that's a lot of people dead in that scenario. But see, it's like the No Kings March. There's no critical thinking involved on the left. They just chant war, war, war. Destroy. We've got to destroy Russia. Russia must be defeated. Putin must be removed. They just parrot these slogans without knowing what these entail and what they can result in. And particularly, and as Putin and some European leaders said, it's easy for these people in America to chant, let's go to war, when the war is unlikely to scorch you. Okay? You might lose San Francisco. I think a lot of people might put up their hand and say, acceptable trade. Except you're also trading away Osaka. You might be trading away Tokyo, Osaka, Okinawa. Well, this goes an American base. You could be trading away half of South Korea before they... You're also risking the fact that you could lose in Korea. You could lose Taiwan. China might not win, but Taiwanese industry will be destroyed. There'll be millions of Taiwanese who just have to leave. There's no rebuilding. There's no chance of rebuilding. The cost of time it would take to rebuild some of Taiwanese industries would be in the decade. So in the meantime, they're gone. They've gone to other countries, probably likely to never come back. So either or, right, China is the winner, right? No matter how you look at it, China wins a global conflict. America survives a global conflict. South America, if they stay neutral, survive intact. Africa will probably see some states, but not many. Mostly, however, what China is worried about is that the Africans are turning against them. Same in Pakistan. What will India do? India could seize Nepal or secure the Himalayas. That's where the wild card comes in. If whether or not China will go nuclear. It's actually thought that China won't go nuclear, even if Russia did, because China realizes that, hey, if Russia goes nuclear and gets destroyed by the US, that's land we can move into later. So they won't go nuclear. So you really apply critical thinking to this right now. I would hope that everybody has a sobering moment and realizes maybe you think killing 2 billion people would save the planet. Yeah. Do you know what? You know what man-made climate change is when you set off a few thousand nuclear weapons? There would be, because you've killed plants. It won't be CO2 in the atmosphere. It'll be carbon monoxide. It'll be methane. It'll be rotting vegetation. The atmosphere of most of Europe will be polluted. You do not want to trigger a nuclear war. And even if it doesn't go nuclear, then the casualties will be in the hundreds of thousands to a few million. Still, there's damage to Japan, to irreparable damage to Korea, probably irreparable damage for decades to Taiwan. You don't want this, folks. Trust me, all these psychopaths out there, they're only chanting because they think they're safe in their little northeastern woods, thinking, oh, nobody will attack Seattle, and when Washington is destroyed, we can take over. See, that's the only thing they care about, is you getting wiped off the map. They don't care if it's Russia or France or England. These liberal elites, what do you think they're leaving LA? They're wanting a war. They're hoping for it. That's why they all got properties in, not Montana. Montana's a military target if there was a nuclear war. But they pick properties in places that are not considered military targets. Particularly in the Pacific Northwest and islands off the coast of America. They know Hawaii's a military target, and they know the US the US has moved its new is refitting, its Zimmel class to hypersonic missile launching. So there's even talk about fixing and repairing that program, which was an Obama-era program. But he did inherit the initial program, but he slashed it. He slashed and made the per ship cost. And somebody in the accounting stuffed up the hypervelocity guided munitions. I don't know how you can mess that up, but people do make mistakes. But trust me, liberals calling for the destruction of Russia know exactly what that entails, and they don't care that you, whether you're Russian, Ukrainian, Polish, they do not care that up to a third of Japan, up to a third of South Korea, up to a third of Taiwan, up to a third of Eastern Europe will be killed. All they look at it is more dead Russians, better for the planet. Because that's how autistic they really are. Okay, scratch a liberal, find a fascist. Look it up. It's a well-known statement, not a slogan or cliche. In fact, it is credited to Malcolm X, but I do believe it's actually older than that, but I don't know offhand. So please, this is one of these dark times that no kings. This is all about undermining support for Trump to force a war in Europe so that the greedy liberals can move in and buy up real estate. Trust me, private equity is in a panic and they are funding these protests against Trump because Trump won't move and keep interest rates very high, because when interest rates are high, private equity wins because you can't go out and buy houses. They go out and buy houses, and you're forced to sell yours. They buy them all up and then rent them all out. Private equity, folks. Trillions of dollars locked up in the hands of a few. And it's growing. And not because of Trump. It grew. You know, private equity doubled under Biden. Private equity doubled under Obama. Yes, it's grown under Trump, but not much. Our economic freedom is a bane for... This is why Gavin Newsom won't build housing, because private equity funds own all the units. So you have to think dynamically and look at the bigger picture and see that Ukraine war is a vast evil perpetrated by very greedy people who are urging war, and at the same time privately holding private equity fund meetings and talking about opportunities in Ukraine. That's war profiteering, folks. And we used to hang people, but you know the liberal motto, right? It's not fascism when we do it. So thank you all for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. And as always, I implore you to please support the channel. Then you can do so through Ko-Fi. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Patreon, of which I have 2. And buy my books, buy my merch. All my links are in the link tree description below, in my profile, or scan the QR code on the screen. Please and thank you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.